social media communication manager, Marissa Green, and the city manager gets a hold of me and he says, I want to show you this. Can you look at this just for a minute? And it's real hard just to say, no, I've got to go. Anyway, I want to thank Dr. Marugan and the staff for allowing me to be here today. I'm very excited to talk to you all. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history. I'll try not to get long-winded. We know how that is. We don't like anybody talking too long. I moved to Florida in 1972 from Wisconsin. I graduated from Auburndale High School in 1976. I was a musician. I went on the road in 1979 and traveled throughout Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. I love playing guitar for a living. I wanted to be the next Jimi Hendrix. That didn't quite turn out. I met my wife-to-be, Marcy, on the road in Jacksonville. She was an entertainer herself. She sang and played guitar. We met and fell in love. In 1984, we were married. Came back to Auburndale. One of her biggest passions was not music, but education. She wanted to go back to school to get her undergraduate degree. I went on the road, and she had registered and went to school at Florida Southern College at night while she worked full-time during the day. She received her undergraduate degree, and I'm going to brag, she graduated summa cum laude in 1984 and applied to go to graduate school at Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee. Going to Nashville, Tennessee was a great deal for myself because I was a musician. We moved to Nashville in 1986, and in 1991 she got her graduate degree. She got a PhD in neuroscience. In 2000, 2001, my folks and her folks started to suffer age-related illness and started getting old. So we decided we'd come back to Auburndale. We moved back to Auburndale. The city was beautiful. It had changed so much in the 16 years that I had been gone. I went down to the city manager and I asked him, I said, if there's anything I can do for our city, please do not fail to call me. I will be there. After a while, he called me up, put me on a couple different planning organizations and a couple different committees. And before I knew it, I was in the system. It was great. In 2012, our current city commissioner, Jack Myers, took a run at the state senate. So they had to replace Jack. 3 people put in applications to become a city commissioner, and I was one of them, and they have picked me. 2013, I ran my own campaign, was re-elected unopposed. 2015, I was elected mayor. 2016, I was re-elected mayor. So I'm real proud, I'm real pleased to be within the city of Auburndale. I think it runs extremely smooth. Now I'm going to talk about the good old days. Everybody knows about the good old days. We have our own idea of the good old days. You know, we're reminded about it in television, we're reminded about it in magazines and books. One thing is for sure, all our definitions are different about the good old days. They're perceived as when the world was easier, things were cheaper, things moved slower, and the food was better, we had far less worries. Sure, that makes sense. My good old days were the 1960s. You could buy a Coca-Cola for 10 cents, a Hershey's almond candy bar for a nickel. You could go to the movie for 35 cents and buy popcorn for 50 cents a box. You know, that was great to make money. I mowed lawns. To make money, I shoveled sidewalks in the wintertime. Those were the good old days, right? In the morning, I'd shovel sidewalks before I went to school, and I shoveled sidewalks after I went to school. One thing's for sure, I dreaded the cold weather, the cold winters, and I dread them today. I was usually paid 50 cents to shovel a sidewalk. My father had a nice shiny red station wagon. My mother and my 2 brothers went everywhere in this red station wagon. In those days, you didn't have air conditioning. You just rolled down the windows. Most of the cars that didn't have air conditioning were so expensive. I had an uncle and aunt that would visit us in the wintertime from Milwaukee. It was always a big time when my Uncle Cam and Auntie Marge would come and visit us. But my Uncle Cam had a habit. He smoked cigars. I mean, he smoked a cigar all the time. He always had one in his mouth. Go to church on Sunday in the wintertime, he'd light that cigar up, and by the time we got to church, my younger brother and my older brother and I were so sick, we'd sit in church and pray for death. I'm going to tell you, we all know that. We've all experienced that. Now, school, The 60s, school was great. We didn't have computers to confuse our lives. We had encyclopedias. So if we had any question, we'd go look it up in an encyclopedia. Now for all you younger people, an encyclopedia was a collection of books that supposedly had all the answers we looked for.
Google and print.
Google and print, yes, that's perfect. And if your family was well off, you were lucky enough to have a set of encyclopedias at your house. We didn't have a set of encyclopedias. We went to the public library or the school library to get our answers. Our entertainment at home was our television and our record player. I remember we got our 17-inch black and white TV. It was a big day at the Pospichal house. We had 3 channels. Now remember, I was born in Wisconsin. One channel was dedicated to the farm report 24 hours a day. So we had 2 channels to watch. 1968, the more mature people are laughing with me because they remember those days. 1968, we got a 19-inch color television. Right then and there, I decided to dedicate my life to watching my TV. You would not get me out of the house for anything. The Flintstones, the Jetsons, I mean, everybody was in color. It was